Welcome and thank you for joining us for the fourth and final installment of our Black History Month live read series. Tonight we are presenting to you How to Get Away with a Scandal, a live read parody. This show is a part of Arcade Comedy Theater's celebration of Black History Month. If you would like to support all of the local artists in the 8 shows this month, you can donate any amount to the Arcade at Home Artist Fund for Black History Month fundraising page, and all the proceeds will go directly to the producers and artists creating this month-long celebration. You can find the link to donate below. Click freely,
Click
click
it.
often.
Give us your coins.
Thank you so very much and enjoy the show.
Exterior, main quad, Middleton University, day. We follow student Michaela Pratt, walking across the campus of Middleton University. She weaves past the fresh-faced, Abercrombie-clad undergrads playing frisbee on the green and professors holding class under trees. And just as we find ourselves remembering our own college days and wishing we could go back into this idyllic campus in particular, the student stops her bike in front of a beautiful historic building. She looks up at the letters etched into the stone, Middleton Law School. She takes in the sight, her face full of promise and determination. She enters the building. Interior lecture hall, day. Michaela enters through the back of an old-fashioned lecture hall filled with 80 of the most brilliant law students in the country. She begins greeting people as she heads for a seat. Suddenly, the same door opens and Professor Annalise Keating enters, causing the room to go quiet. Annalise is everything you hope your law professor will be. Brilliant, passionate, creative, charismatic, well moisturized. She's also everything you don't expect. Sexy, elegant, glamorous, dangerous. Without a word or wasted motion, a shark through water, she moves toward the dais at the front of the room.
Good morning.
She walks to the desk in the center of the dais and puts her briefcase down. Moving to the chalkboard, she begins to write on it.
Don't bother pulling out your case study packets. I won't keep you long. Who can answer this riddle? People have fought wars over me. You will die if you can't access me, and your skin will age like a raisin without me. What am I?
Before anyone has a chance to answer, she reaches under the lectern and pulls a glass of water from underneath.
Nature's vodka. Without staying hydrated, people have little to no chance of achieving glowing skin. Without a clean, safe supply of water, life will not thrive. Nathaniel Leahy Sr. understood that, and he understood the dire circumstances that were plaguing his town. When it was discovered that the Bentonville water supply was being contaminated with runoff from the Valdeck factory, Mr. Leahy took matters into his own hands by reopening on the pipeline from the Cherry Hill Reservoir. And from that, he was punished. But punishment wasn't enough for the powers that be. They had to vilify him, dry him out. And they were able to get away with it because Mr. Leahy was poor. He had to rely on an overwhelmed public defender system to represent him. He and thousands of other people across this country are faced with the same dilemma every day.
She drinks the water.
Case study packets of all the information you need. Defense strategies with case law due by the end of the week. You're dismissed.
The class disperses. Michaela approaches Annalise along with Connor Walsh, Laura Castillo, and Asher Milstead.
I have to go to the jail to meet with Mr. Leahy. You three are going to work on the opening statement for tomorrow.
Annalise pulls a file out of her briefcase and holds it out. The students look at each other nervously.
What are you waiting for? Go.
Connor takes the file. Annalise and the students leave the classroom. Interior jailhouse visitors room, day. Annalise sits at a metal table across from Nate Leahy Sr., a middle-aged man with graying hair at the temples. A worried scowl is painted on his face. He's handcuffed to the table. The crowded room affords them little privacy, so he is hunched forward to hear Annalise better, who is talking in a low voice. His son, Nate Leahy Jr., who is also there. Nate Sr. is rubbing shea butter from a small jar they have brought for him into his very dry hands.
Oh, yeah, I do appreciate you bringing this. You know, we don't get the real stuff in here.
I know, but you deserve it. You've been doing so well in prep.
Uh, you say that like you're surprised.
I'm impressed. As a matter of fact, I've decided to call you as my first witness in the trial. That means we have to go over your testimony again.
No. I'm sick of myself.
But the more you tell your story, the easier it will be for you on the stand.
And it means more time out the icebox with lotion privileges. Not a bad deal, right?
Cut to Connor's apartment day. Connor, Michaela, Asher, and Laurel are working on their assignment. Nathaniel Leahy Sr. was just 26 years old when his life was hijacked by the justice system. Before that, he was just an average man trying to keep a roof over his family's head and keep their skin as radiant as possible. Cut to Jailhouse visitors room.
Man's got 2 jobs in my book. Put food in this kid's mouths and moisturize their skin. I did what I had to do. I took what I needed.
You stole what you needed.
You watch your kids itching so bad they start scratching welts into their skin. See if you steal some shea butter, Vaseline, hell, even some Jergens if you can get it. And I never stole nothing before Valdec came and dried up our town.
Cut to Connor's apartment.
The for-profit skincare system in this country has made commodities out of human bodies. African-American bodies, in particular, are more than 5 times likely to shrivel without proper moisturization.
Cut to Jailhouse visitors room.
In 2002, you violated your parole 3 weeks after being released. Can you explain that for the court?
I came home to a bill from Valdec, charging me thousands in fees for the fake shea butter automatically supplied to residents. We didn't ask for that. I would never let my family use that toxic mess. And how'd they expect me to pay anyway when I couldn't get a job? Because of them, I was a convicted felon. The base oils black market was the only way I could keep our skin healthy.
Cut to Connor's apartment.
You should quote Jay-Z. He wrote a New York Times op-ed about the parole system.
The judge isn't going to know who JC is.
No, it's not about Jay-Z. It's about the fact that even the slightest probation infraction can send you back to jail for a longer sentence than your original crime.
Cut to Jailhouse visitors room.
They would have gotten me regardless. I wasn't allowed to get a traffic ticket or miss my curfew, be near the natural health store. Oh, and then whoop, 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 whoop.
Add a section about the systemic destruction of families, that the children that are separated from their parents are more likely to fall into a life of crime themselves.
Everybody stops and looks at Laurel.
What? I'm not talking about my baby.
She was absolutely talking about her baby. Cut to Jailhouse visitors room.
Each time I went back to jail, I was a target. Everybody wanted to test the new guy. They steal a little bit of my moisturizer I was able to get, torment me till I had no choice. It was defend yourself or go dry. Didn't matter much. I always ended up in the icebox, skin all cracked and tight.
Cut to Connor's apartment. Shouldn't we at least address the attempted murder?
Who did he try to murder?
Cut to Jailhouse visitors room.
I didn't try to kill anybody. I didn't want to hurt that fella, but he came all at me in the yard, all ashy and wild-eyed, talking all crazy, saying he wanted to take the see what the alligator had inside of him. Threw the first punch. I didn't throw the first punch, I swear. Then something went off inside me and I blinked and I looked up and I was on top of him, pounding as hard as I could, dust flying everywhere. Whew. They say it took 5 COs to pull me off of him. So much dry skin had flaked off at that point, and then he should have had an emergency milk bath, but it was prison, so they let the raw skin fester.
Do you remember how long you'd been in the icebox without lotion before this happened?
A month.
No, a year.
Nate Senior's eyes widen in horror as he looks from Annalise to his son, Nate Jr. Cut to Connor's apartment. Yes, this is an act of extreme violence, but it was violence that stemmed from the 12 brutal, inhumane months that Mr. Leahy spent in solitary confinement, deprived of any moisture.
Calm down, Atticus.
I was not born a. We cut to interior courtroom day. Annalise finishes reading Connor's sentence from the opening argument that they had prepared for her to deliver.
Criminal, but born into a system that made him one.
She shakes her head. So, what do you think? It's good, right?
Doesn't sound like me.
That's what I told him.
Thanks for your hard work, but I'm gonna wing it.
Fail.
The door at the back of the courtroom opens and Nate walks in. He and Annalise look at each other and exchange a reassuring nod. Just then, presiding judge enters and begins.
This is the class action trial of Leahy versus a Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Today, we'll begin with opening statements. Witness testimony and documentary evidence will be tomorrow. Ms. Keating, please begin.
Annalise rises.
Thank you, Judge Salinas. Today, I'm proud to present the class action that has the potential to correct the most egregious inequities poisoning our country.
Suddenly, the attorney sitting at the defendant's table rises to speak.
My apologies, Your Honor.
Annalise turns to her looking startled. She hadn't expected the interruption.
The Attorney General sent me to notify you and Ms. Keating that no trial will be happening here today.
Excuse me?
Explain, counsel.
The state's attorney starts shuffling through the papers in front of her as she speaks.
This morning, the Attorney General received a King's Bench petition from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. They're pulling the case from trial court in order to hear it themselves.
Oh God.
Oh God.
Why, oh God, what is happening?
They're stealing the case.
Your Honor, the governor and attorney general have clearly called in some backroom favors to make sure I don't get a chance to argue my case.
Not true, Judge. As the petition states, the state Supreme Court requests that both sides submit a written brief in lieu of a trial.
The entire case is predicated on the fact that my plaintiffs have never seen the inside of a courtroom, and now it's happening again.
You can put this all in your brief to the justices, Ms. Keating.
A written document cannot communicate the gravity of injustice that's at stake here.
I agree with you, but we all know the 7 justices in Harrisburg rule over whatever decision I make. The decision is out of my hands, Ms. Keating.
She strikes the gavel.
Court adjourned.
Annalise, Nate, and the students all look around suspiciously. Interior jailhouse visitors room day. Sitting at a table in the corner, far from the few other people in the room, Nate Jr. is trying to explain to Nate Sr. what the motion from the state's attorney general means. Annalise looks on silently.
So I spilled my guts for nothing.
No, everything you told Annalise should be put in a brief. 7 judges will read it, and we hope they decide in our favor.
You think I'm soft, right?
What?
You know where I live, man? I know how to take bad news.
This isn't bad news. They just changed the rules. No trial, no witness.
Kind of trial got 7 judges, no jury. You changed your mind, that's all.
No, I'll show you the paperwork if you don't believe me.
I don't have to look at no paperwork to know when I'm being played. It's you, right? You're afraid I'm a bad look for your case.
I get it. There's people you can't trust, especially in here, but I'm not one of them. I've got your back.
Guard, I want to go back to my house.
The guard approaches the cubicle that Nate Sr. is using.
You've still got a few minutes left.
Nah, I'm done.
Nate Sr. stands and flicks the jar of Calendula hydrating cream they have brought to him before allowing the guard to put the handcuffs back on while staring at Nate and Annalise.
For good.
As Nate Sr. is being let out by a guard, Annalise turns to Nate Jr.
He's right. This is not good.
What do you mean? I thought the whole point of this thing was to get him to the state Supreme Court.
But I don't get to go. They just want me to write a brief. That way it's easier for them to throw the whole thing out.
And you're going to take no for an answer? I didn't know that's an option for you.
Just like the meme, Annalise rolls her eyes and picks up her briefcase to leave. Interior Connor's apartment day. The students are furiously working to come up with a convincing argument for the brief. Connor and Michaela are in a heated debate while Asher tries to distract him with baked goods. People of color represent about 60% of moisturized people living below the poverty line.
But most of the justices who'll be reading this brief don't use lotion. We have to offset that bias. Annalise would agree with me.
I think Annalise would also agree that this is my best batch of joy yet.
A week ago, you could care less about this case.
A week ago, I didn't know this case had the potential to go to the Supreme Court.
It's already at the Supreme Court.
The actual United States Supreme Court.
You actually think that's possible?
Seriously? I should probably spend less time baking.
Yeah, I get it now. Your sudden interest in this case is all about getting your name mentioned in the brief.
Someone's name has to go on it.
Yeah, mine.
You think Loretta Lynch put her dehydrated secretary's name in her briefs?
I am not Annalise's dehydrated secretary.
Okay, beauty school dropout.
She tosses him a jar of hand moisturizer. He instinctually catches it.
For those knuckles.
What is your problem with me?
She has a point.
No, she doesn't.
Look in between those fingers, Connor. I've been trying to tell you nicely for days that your new hand cream is not working.
Annalise is writing the brief that will be presented to the state Supreme Court.
When a person is ashen, it affects not only them, but it affects the ones that love them. Nowhere in the Supreme Court's precedents do they sanction discrimination based on race, class, or the ability to moisturize.
Oh shit. We cut to Annalise in an ornate wood panel office with portraits of three very old, very white former justices staring down at her. She's sitting at a large wooden conference table in one of the high-back leather chairs that surround it. She is anxiously reading her brief while awaiting the decision from the Justice of the State Supreme Court. Her phone rings and it's Nate.
Hey.
Any news?
They've been keeping me waiting for over an hour.
Well, the justice wouldn't call you to Harrisburg if they weren't seriously considering the case.
Or they just want to laugh in my face before ruling against me.
Stop, you got this.
I hope so. I really do.
The door of the conference room opens and a court clerk enters.
I have to go. Is the panel ready for me?
The clerk gestures towards the open door. Annalise takes a deep breath before gathering her things and following the clerk out. Cut to interior hallway Nate's apartment. Annalise takes a deep breath before knocking on Nate Jr.'s door, preparing herself to deliver the news.
Nate?
Nate answers the door wearing a moisturizing mask. Looking hopeful, he tries to read Annalise's face.
Well?
It's over. We lost. I'm so sorry.
Nate's hopeful expression falls and he removes the mask from his face.
Stop, you tried. It's more than most people.
I'm going over to the prison now to tell your father.
No, this is on me. You've done more than enough. Thanks.
Interior Connor's apartment night. Michaela is sitting forward in her chair with an angry look of determination on her face. Asher, Laurel, and Connor are commiserating over the news from the state Supreme Court.
I know what we need.
Don't say cookies.
Pizza.
Okay, yeah. Michaela, becoming annoyed, gets up and grabs her coat and her purse and starts to leave.
Where are you going?
You've been eating your feelings for weeks and it's done nothing.
We lost Michaela. Now we have to lick our wounds.
Keep your skincare regimen to yourself because that's called giving up. You might do that, but I don't.
She turns and walks out of the apartment. Interior Annalise's apartment night. Someone is anxiously knocking on Annalise's penthouse door. Annalise opens the door, letting Michaela into the penthouse.
What?
I figured out how to fix the class action.
It's over, Michaela.
Not if you appeal to the Supreme Court.
There's no chance in hell the Supreme Court is going to hear this case.
You just need to ask for help. Like you said to me, nobody does anything worthwhile alone. Getting your case heard at the Supreme Court, for example, they only take 2% of class action suits submitted. That's why you need to know people with skin in the game, people with power, people who have that influence, fix problems. I know who that is.
Annalise looks at her, now paying attention. Exterior Maryland countryside day. We see a passenger train speed by and cut to exterior Washington, D.C. day. We have a bird's eye view of a large colonial building on the idyllic campus of DeWitt University, set on the bank of the Potomac River. We hear a man's voice begin the introduction for a prominent person.
She's behind every closed door in town.
Cut to interior lecture hall day. We follow a woman as she enters the packed lecture hall to applause and walks toward the center of the room. She puts down her briefcase and moves toward the chalkboard. As the introduction continues, she writes on the board.
She's run campaigns, served under 2 presidents. If you're a senator or a congressman, you've gotten in trouble. She's held your hand and steered you towards safety. She's arguably the most supple skin, has the most supple skin of any person in this country, and still shockingly, she's agreed to come to talk to us today.
We see Annalise sneak into a door in the back of the classroom, trying not to call attention to herself. She takes a seat.
And so, without any further ado, I give our newest guest lecturer, Olivia Pope.
Olivia Pope, a stylish woman in her late 30s and is sharp in every sense of the word, puts down the chalk and walks toward the students. On the board is written, "How to Survive a Scandal." She smiles and takes it all in before perching herself on the desk and speaking. Annalise is watching all this with great curiosity.
Who can tell me the biggest mistake that people make in a crisis? Yes?
She points to a student that has raised their hand.
A failure to plan.
Crisis management isn't about planning. It's about action, snap decisions in the moment.
Ineffective communication strategy.
Telling the truth.
This gets a chuckle from the class and a smile from Olivia.
People think we lie for a living, when in fact, the truth is often our greatest weapon. Anyone else?
She looks around the classroom. They all look back at her, awaiting the answer. Just then, Annalise speaks up from her seat in the back of the room.
Not knowing that they look dry.
Good. Very good, Ms.
Keating. Annalise Keating.
Olivia gives her a small nod, and we hear the familiar shutter click of the scandal opening. Interior lecture hall day. Olivia is talking to a couple of fawning students who are congratulating her on the brilliant lecture. Annalise walks down the steps to the front of the room and approaches Olivia.
Ms. Pope.
Ms. Keating. That was a very informed answer earlier, spoken from experience.
I'm a defense attorney, so I know what it takes to convince a skeptical audience. I taught at Middleton Law School for years. Professor Keating?
I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm happy my own business never caught your attention.
Olivia politely chuckles. Annalise mirrors that chuckle before getting to the point.
I'm representing a class action case that has the potential to reform our entire justice system. I have 100 plaintiffs, all poor and frequently dusty. Mostly people of color who have been incarcerated, primarily due to underfunded public defenders. Case was just shot down by Pennsylvania courts.
I wish you a lot of luck.
Luck? People's constitutional rights are being violated every single day in every courtroom across the country. Luck is for cereal with marshmallows.
Olivia begins to laugh and turns to gather her things.
I need your help.
I'm not sure how I can. I'm not a practicing lawyer.
I don't need another lawyer. I need this case to be fast-tracked to the United States Supreme Court.
Ah, I don't know if you've heard, but I've been out of the White House for a few months now.
The news said you left on good terms.
I did, but I'm sort of enjoying my break from politics.
Who's talking politics? I'm talking justice. And in the new Jim Crow, here, read this case file.
She puts a medium-sized accordion folder on the desk next to Olivia.
Just look it over. You can say no then.
Olivia looks at Annalise and realizing that she is not going to take no for an answer, gives Annalise a small head nod. Annalise begins to leave, but turns to address Olivia.
Ms. Pope, our country is in crisis. Together, we can fix it.
She turns and continues up the steps and out of the lecture hall. Olivia pensively watches her leave. Interior, the Granger Lounge, evening. Olivia is sitting at the bar of this upscale moisturizing establishment, having a drink as well as sampling a few different creams that have been ordered. She is joined by Marcus Walker, an aide to the former President Grant and former gladiator. They are discussing Annalise Keating.
Annalise Keating? The Annalise Keating?
So you've heard of her.
Liv, it's Annalise Keating. Annalise Keating, the top defense attorney and badass professor from Middleton University in Philly. Skid of Mahogany Goddess. Of course, I applied to law school there because of her. She is a beast.
Marcus takes a sip of his scotch and Olivia gives him the side eye.
Google says she's a criminal.
She's been accused of some things.
He turns to face Olivia while she takes a sip of wine from an oversized glass.
But haven't we all?
She turns to look at him through the bottom of the white wine glass while taking a long gulp. She eventually puts the glass down as Marcus takes another sip of the scotch.
She wants help on a case. Class action suit. The defendants are incarcerated due to
overworked public defenders. Yeah, I read about this. I brought the idea to Fitz, but we got sidetracked with another project. Are you taking it on?
No. Are you serious?
Black men going to prison with dry skin because of the constitutional rights have been violated? Yeah, I'm serious.
Marcus, I'm not in the game anymore.
Right, you're a school teacher.
Watch yourself.
Marcus takes another sip of the scotch. There is an awkward pause in the conversation. Then Olivia tries one of the artisan moisturizing creams, rubbing it onto the back of her hand and smelling it.
This is Guyanese. Feels like velvet.
So you're just going to ignore this injustice?
I just don't think I can do it.
Then don't do it. Do nothing. Waste your life. I gotta go.
Marcus rises to leave.
Marcus, why do
I return your calls? Show up for drinks? Come over to watch the game?
Yeah.
Olivia watches Marcus as he counts out money for his tab.
After everything that happened, why are you here?
Marcus leans down, resting an elbow on the bar to be eye to eye with Olivia.
We're Black, which means I'll always be here for you and I'll always root for you. It's what we do.
Olivia, having been raised by Papa Pope, is a little perplexed by this. Marcus finishes his scotch, puts a glass on the bar, and leaves Olivia to think about what he said. Shutter click and cut to interior Olivia's apartment night. Liv's looking through the case file that Annalise left for her. She's struck by the number of cases and the epidemic lack of due diligence from legal counsel. Annalise's name at the top of one page catches her eye, and she turns to her laptop and does an internet search of the name. The first thing that comes up is an article with a picture of Annalise's husband, Sam, with a headline that reads, "Psychology professor declared missing." She continues her search, looking through the other articles showing Sam and Annalise reading the headlines out loud.
Police search Keating's home for signs of homicide. Sam Keating's remains found in a landfill.
She clicks another article, this one with just a picture of Annalise on a flyer with her face circled in red and the word killer written underneath.
University still looking for flyer suspect. Damn, you have almost as many bodies as me. Almost.
She pauses for a moment thinking. We hear the shutter click and cut to interior hotel hallway night. Olivia is knocking on Annalise's hotel door. Annalise answers in her robe and bonnet, a little surprised to see Olivia. Before she can say anything, Olivia speaks.
It's a good case. Your brief is strong. The injustices are clear. It's evident these prisoners' constitutional rights are being violated and the health of their skin is in danger. Some of their stories are quite moving.
I sense a butt coming.
There is one problem. You. Annalise Keating can't be the face of this. I did a little research. Murdered husband, a stint in jail.
I was wrongfully accused, just like many of my plaintiffs.
Your tenure at Middleton was nullified. You were almost disbarred for alcoholism.
I'm sober now.
Ms. Keating, you and your gleaming skin would be the national press's featured entree for almost a month of news cycles. Arson charges for dinner, murder for dessert. Even if I was able to spin this rather colorful history of yours, you'd still have to pull off a miracle to get the Supreme Court to come anywhere near this case.
So you're saying I'm a hot mess?
Yes.
I thought you were able to move mountains. That's why I came here looking for you. Your reputation was supposed to speak for itself.
They stare at each other for a very long and uncomfortable few seconds. Olivia is the first to break the silence.
Have a safe trip back to Philadelphia.
Annalise, shaking her head, gives Olivia an up and down once over with a look of disgust on her face and closes the door. Olivia looks offended by the silent assessment and begins to leave. She stops about halfway to the elevator, replaying Marcus's words in her head. After taking a moment to think, she returns to Annalise's hotel room door and knocks again. When Annalise opens the door, she spits out,
If we're going to work together, there's one thing that you need to understand. This is my town, my game, my rules.
Annalise is just watching her, trying to suppress a small smile that is threatening to appear on her face.
Understood?
Understood.
As Olivia turns to leave, Annalise closes the door and marches down the hallway to the elevator, hair spring-loaded and bouncing like a slinky. Shutter click, we cut to exterior Capitol building night. We hear shutter click and cut to exterior Washington Monument sunrise. We hear another shutter click and cut to interior conference room, the Fitzgerald Grant Institute day. Michaela is making sure that the setup for the meeting is perfect. She's nervously making small adjustments to folders and chairs and pens, etc. When Marcus enters the conference room.
You got here early.
I'm not early.
Meeting doesn't start until 9,
I know.
which makes you early.
I'm not early. I'm ready.
She continues making small adjustments as Olivia and Annalise enter the conference room. Michaela heads directly to Olivia to introduce herself.
Good morning.
Morning.
Miss Pope, it's such an honor.
This is my associate, Michaela Pratt.
I can't even begin to express how much this means to me.
Except you just did.
It's nice to meet you, Michaela. Annalise, this is Marcus Walker.
Welcome to DC, Miss Keating.
Thanks for having me.
They shake hands. At that moment, Fitz walks into the conference room. Morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Mr. President.
You must be Annalise.
Yes, Mr. President.
Call me Fitz.
No, thank you, sir, Mr. President.
Fitz turns to Michaela and walks towards her with his hand stretched out for a handshake. Hi there, I'm
44.
sorry.
44. 44th president. 44.
That's me.
Mr. President, before we get started, we wanted to thank you for agreeing to help. This issue is
An important one, I know. Fortunately, President Grant thinks so too.
President Grant.
That'd be the other President Grant.
She agreed to meet with us?
She has.
That's fantastic.
If we can get the White House behind our case, then the Supreme Court will add us to the docket. No question.
Let's get to work.
Shutter click. Cut to interior Oval Office day. President Melly Grant, the first woman to hold the office, is waiting for them.
Welcome, come in. So nice to see you all. Fitz, Marcus.
Madam President.
Annalise is astounded to be standing in the Oval Office. She's looking around, just taking all of it in.
Miss Keating, it's a pleasure to meet you. Is this your first time in the White House?
It is. Thank you for meeting with us.
Thank you for coming. I'm anxious to hear about this case of yours.
Melly shakes Annalise's hand and gives her presidential smile. Melly then motions for everyone to have a seat. Melly skims through the case folder.
All of these people are dry and itchy?
Who knows? They were never given a fair defense because they couldn't afford one. If we're able to get the Supreme Court to hear the case, if we're able to win it, we can change the system, and we can do it now.
You and I are in agreement, Miss Keating. The system does need to change, but it's not going to be this way.
Madam President, it's a solid case. If only the White House put pressure on the justices to hear it.
Don't get me wrong, I like the case. I just don't like the court. You put this case before the current roster of judges, you won't win. There are rumblings that at least a couple of the more conservative, traditionally parched judges may be considering retirement very soon. Marsh, maybe Kingston. This time next year, you could be facing a whole new ball game.
Next year?
We don't even know if these judges are going to retire next year. You're going to delay justice and proper skincare for these people based on a rumor?
Based on certainty. The certainty that if we move forward with this now, we will be shut down.
She turns to address Annalise directly.
And all the work you have done.
All the work I've done? Let me tell you about the work I've done.
Madam President, may I speak with you privately?
Olivia, let's not.
No, it's okay. Let's. Everyone, give us the room.
Everyone but Olivia stands and begins to exit. Melly turns to Annalise and offers her hand.
Miss Keating, thank you. I'm so sorry that we couldn't be more accommodating.
Seeing Melly's unmoistened, outstretched hand, Annalise declines to take it.
Madam President, thank you for your time.
Olivia approaches Annalise and puts a reassuring hand on her arm and gives her a small nod. Annalise looks back toward Melly, annoyed, and exits the room. Olivia closes the door behind her. She walks towards Melly, who is standing next to the Resolute desk, looking out onto the patio.
Why did you agree to take this meeting if you knew you were going to say no?
Melly turns to face Olivia, wearing a smug smile.
First of all, I agreed to this meeting as a favor to Fitz. And secondly, I didn't say no. I said not now.
This is not the time to punish me.
Melly takes 2 steps towards Olivia, still smiling.
Do you really think that I'm that small?
I think you're putting the brakes on something you should want, and there has to be a reason.
I want this case to move forward in a year when it actually has a chance of succeeding. The only reason you want this case to happen now is because you need a win. You need a win while there's still a chance for you to scrape back some influence in this town, beyond the occasional teaching gig, that is.
Madam President, I don't.
Melly takes 2 more steps towards Olivia, hands clasped in front of her, looking quite pleased with herself.
Go ahead. Tell me I'm wrong. It wouldn't be the first time you stood in this room and lied to my face.
Olivia takes a long, hard look at Melly, who is still smug and awaiting an answer.
We're going to the Supreme Court, with or without you.
Now smiling like the Cheshire Cat, Melly leans forward and mimics Olivia's soft tone.
You do that, and you will find yourself an adversary in the White House.
For a few seconds, Olivia looks impressed and nods her head before the determined look of a gladiator returns, looking back at Melly.
Wouldn't be the first time for that either.
Olivia picks up her bag and exits the Oval Office, and a smile fades from Melly's face. We hear the shutter snap and cut to Interior QPA Day. Quinn Perkins, head of the Quinn Perkins Agency, formerly Olivia Pope Agency, is pouring coffee with her back to the door. She starts talking when she hears the door close.
Oh, that was fast. Did the dermatologist say yes to the payoff? Or are we going to have to saturate him a little?
She has finished pouring her coffee and turned around expecting to see Huck, but instead it's Jake Ballard, commander of B-16, a covert intelligence unit operating out of the basement of the White House. He's essentially a government-sponsored serial killer.
Couldn't tell you. Sounds juicy though. Sure it's quiet around here. Did everyone call out sick, or are they?
How can I help you, Jake? Admiral? Command? What am I supposed to call you these days anyway?
There's a case making its way towards the Supreme Court, and President Grant would prefer that it stall out before it even gets there.
And you're coming to us when you have B613?
And I thought you would take a personal interest in this case. It's a criminal justice reform class action case championed by none other than Olivia Pope.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a big no. I have no interest in anything having to do with Olivia Pope.
Your RSS speed begs to differ. How many articles have you read about Olivia this month? 5? 7?
You're spying on my internet history?
Yeah, you and about 300 million other citizens. Look, here's the deal. If Liv is able to score a win with this case, it'll grease your path for her right back to the halls of power. Are you really going to tell me that's something you're willing to stand by and let happen?
Quinn narrows her eyes and suspiciously considers what Jake is saying. Interior Grant Institute conference room day. Michaela, who has been anxiously awaiting news about the outcome of Olivia's private meeting with Melly, rises when Annalise and Olivia enter the conference room.
President refused to help?
President Grant has made her decision. Nothing we can do now will change that. She made it crystal clear.
That's it? That's what I get by having Olivia Pope on my team? Resignation? You were supposed to butter her up when we left the room. What happened when we left the room?
It doesn't matter.
It matters to me. What did you talk about?
What do you think we talked about? We talked about you.
Me?
You think the president doesn't get a full briefing on every person who sets foot in her office, especially when that person's got a past like yours? Annalise, she'd made up her mind before you'd even open your mouth.
I didn't have to open my mouth. I saw her hands. Looked like she hasn't seen the inside of a paraffin wax treatment in years.
Oh,
You are not putting this on me.
Well, it's not my fault Melly has chosen to be petty.
Or maybe we don't need Melly.
What?
She's right.
she stands up as the opening synth notes of My House by the Mary Jane Girl starts to play.
Cut out the middleman. Put pressure on the Supreme Court ourselves.
As my house kicks into full funk mode, we cut to a television screen where we see Olivia holding a press conference on the steps of the United States Supreme Court. The headline reads, "Developing now, Olivia Pope urges Supreme Court to hear criminal justice class action suits."
The 14th Amendment guarantees equal protection under the law for every person and their skin. That is simply impossible if public defenders are unable to meet the same standards as their privately paid counterparts. This Supreme Court must act to correct that injustice.
Cut to Interior QPA Day. The names of the Supreme Court justices are taped to the window along with a sign on the left that reads "for" and another sign on the right that reads "against." Quinn and Abby are strategizing how to stop Olivia and Annalise's case from getting to the Supreme Court by identifying weaknesses and pressure points for each justice.
You need a majority to win a case in the Supreme Court, but to have it heard, it only takes 4 judges.
Stupid rule of 4. Justice Gutierrez already showed support for Team Live. She only needs 3 more.
Luckily, Kensington and Marsh are super into states' rights and think lotion smothers the skin, so there's no way they'd entertain the case.
Which leaves these 6. We get 4 of them on our side, and Annalise Keating is done.
Interior Courthouse Building Day. Michaela and Marcus are walking up the stairs with a clerk for Justice Rivas, hopeful that they will be able to convince her to get Judge Rivas to rule in their favor.
Of course, Justice Rivas believes in the right to counsel, but the Constitution doesn't say anything about the right to good skin care. She's a strict constitutionalist.
You don't say.
Interior Television Studio Day. Olivia is sitting at the news desk of a cable news show, explaining why this class action suit is so important. The headline under her reads, "Olivia Pope spearheads criminal justice class action suit."
Public defenders are overworked and underpaid, resulting in an inordinate amount of plea deals. Innocent people are willfully going to jail simply because they're poor. Once incarcerated, they are deprived of their right to care for their skin.
Interior Courthouse Day. Abby is walking with Justice O'Hara, arguing why he should vote against hearing the class action suit.
There's no doubt the system is broken, but should the federal government get involved with the state program?
Absolutely not, which is why we will rule to send this case back to Pennsylvania's Circuit Court.
They pass by a staircase and we see Michaela and Marcus walking down those stairs, attempting to speak with Justice Bass, who is trying to brush them off.
I'm sorry, Mr. Walker, but I have a more pressing matter to attend to.
Your Honor, what could be more pressing than 90% of defendants being able to afford competent counsel?
They have followed Justice Bass to the door of a women's restroom, where Justice Bass turns to face them.
Satisfied? Excuse me?
She turns and enters the bathroom. Michaela looks at Marcus.
Hold tight, Justice Bass.
Shutter click. Interior Grant Institute conference room. Day. Olivia is moving the names of the justices on her own board that has the justices divided under for and against labels. She moves a name to the for list.
3 down, 1 to go, so it all rests on.
Interior QPA Day. Quinn is posting a picture of Justice Spivey on the window.
Justice Spivey. The man is 66 years old, but doesn't look a day over 52. There's no way he doesn't have a premium skincare routine.
Of course, and he's always the swing vote, wild card. There's no telling what he'll do, and he never reveals how he's ruling beforehand.
Interior Grant Institute conference room day.
Just got off the phone with Spivey's law clerk, and he agrees with you, Liv. With a little more media push, he can be swayed.
Good. Let's set up a sit down for me and Noah Baker.
I don't think that's a good idea.
No, you're right. It should be someone favored by the lotion lobbyists. Maybe Francesca Hunter.
No, I don't think it's a good idea for you to do the interview. I should do it.
You?
Yes, it's my case. Put me on camera.
Both Olivia and Marcus look like they think it's the wrong idea.
If I do that, they will tear you apart Bring up all your past sins.
Fine, bring it on. I'm tired of hiding on the shadows. Truth is our greatest weapon. You said so yourself.
Truth can be unpredictable. At this point, what's most important is staying on message and selling this to Justice Spivey.
Just like you sold it to President Grant?
And a comfortable silence hangs for a few seconds.
Are you questioning my tactics?
Should I be?
Olivia looks at Annalise with disgust. Before it gets too tense, Michaela chimes in.
Why don't you two do the interview together?
Olivia looks over to Michaela like she can't believe this girl had the nerve to speak. Annalise's gaze never leaves Olivia.
Excuse me?
Annalise, you can convey the passion behind the case, tug at Spivey's heartstrings. And if the interview begins to take a turn towards personal issues, then Miss Pope, you can steer it back to what's most important. This case, right?
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Well-oiled action plan never fails.
Olivia adjusts her posture as she is considering what Michaela has said. Annalise, blinking, looks not at all thrilled.
Okay.
Fine.
Thank God.
If we do this right, this interview could be the push Spivey needs to hear the case.
I'll set it up.
I'll call Spivey's people to make sure he's watching.
Great.
Marcus and Michaela leave the conference room. Annalise and Olivia are now alone, tension still hanging in the air. Olivia takes a deep breath and Annalise speaks first.
Please tell me you know a good hairdresser.
Of course.
Interior QPA day. The other gladiators have just told Quinn that they couldn't find anything on Judge Spivey.
You're telling me Spivey is clean? No weird porn searches? Not even a creepy library book? I don't buy it. A guy that powerful clean? That's freaky.
If we can't hamstring Spivey, we could be in trouble. Liv's killing it in the media. The public wants reform.
Olivia thinks she can grease wheels, ramming it down the Supreme Court's throat. I mean, why not, right? She's gotten away with everything else.
Nothing ever sticks to her. Her skin's too shiny.
There's gotta be dirt on Spivey somewhere.
Maybe he's just a man of principle. Or maybe he's smart.
You're right. He is smart. Smart enough to store his dirty laundry in a separate server. Charlie, go find it.
Charlie, one of QPA's henchmen, has been sitting in the corner waiting for marching orders. He hops to and runs out of the room to find something, anything on Spivey. Interior hair salon day. Annalise and Olivia are getting their hair done. The salon is empty except for them and two hairstylists.
So she shows up at his house at 2 a.m. with a girl in the back seat?
Yes, girl. Then they started fighting. It was on some straight up ratchet mess.
That's how your family do, though.
That's just one cousin. They're not all like that.
Everybody got one hood cousin.
Or aunt.
Or uncle who used to be a pimp.
And then found Jesus.
Oh, I got two of those.
They all laugh. Just then Liv looks over and sees a picture of herself next to a news anchor, and her smile fades. They all notice the TV and grow quiet. The headline reads, Olivia Pope dismissed from White House and firing scandal.
Can you turn that up?
Crystal reaches for the remote and turns the sound on.
Sources are saying that former Chief of Staff Olivia Pope's interest in the criminal justice class action suit is based on a personal vendetta against President Grant due to Miss Pope being ousted from the White House.
I can neither confirm nor deny rumors that Olivia Pope was fired from the White House, but I will say President Grant will not be working with Ms. Pope or on any recent or future endeavors.
Annalise, shocked, turns to look at Olivia.
You said you left on good terms, that I was the problem with this case, but it's really you. You lied to me.
Can you give us a minute?
Oh, the stylists stop what they're doing, give each other a quick look, and exit the room. Once they are gone, Annalise speaks.
So, is it true?
I didn't lie. My resignation was complicated.
Sounds like more spin to me.
You came to me asking for my help.
Because I thought you had a bite behind that bark. But instead, I found a sedity phony from the minute she laid eyes on me.
I never judged you.
Oh, you judged me immediately, just like a white man in a boardroom looking down on me because my hips are too wide and my hue too dark.
Oh, so we're going there. Wow.
You think we're soul sisters just because you rented out a hair salon for a few hours on the black side of town? Please. I dealt with plenty of bougie-ass black women just like you. Spend most of your time, most of your life in boarding school and Ivy League universities with a horse between your legs and a silver spoon in your mouth. You're not the only one who knows how to Google.
Olivia's turned in her chair so that she is facing Annalise head on, studying her.
You called me a hot mess, remember? But it sounds to me that despite all your failed attempts to stand above me on your little pedestal, we're the same. So keep it real, Olivia Pope. Why'd you leave the White House?
Olivia studies Annalise for a few more seconds, barely masking a contemptuous look.
You know your skin tone and measurements aren't the reason people don't like you. It's you, Annalise Keating. You are a bully who insults people and then wonders why they won't help you. But hey, you're just trying to keep it real, right? How's that working out for you? Can't be that great, huh? If you had to haul your broke ass on the megabus to beg for my help.
Oh,
You may think you know who I am and what I'm about, but don't get it twisted. We are not the same. So allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Olivia Pope, and I don't have to explain myself to anybody, especially you.
they stare at each other for a few more seconds before Olivia calls a stylist back into the room.
Kevin, you can come back. We're done.
Olivia turns back to face forward in her salon chair.
And don't worry about wash and press. I'll make sure to put that on my sedity ass no limit platinum card.
I can pay for my own damn hair.
Okay.
The stylists return to what is now a cold, tense room and silently go back to working on the women's hair. Shutter snap cut to interior QPA conference room the next morning. Quinn is sitting at the conference table with a worried look on her face. She looks over and Charlie is standing at the door, waving a file at her. He walks over and drops it on her desk. Curious, she takes and starts flipping through it. She looks up at Charlie, surprised and delighted.
Abby,
What?
Charlie found dirt on Spivvy. Oh, this is so good. Liv is never gonna know what hit her. She is done.
Charlie turns and exits. Abby, who's been standing in the doorway, enters looking concerned.
What?
I don't know. I'm all for playing dirty, but we're gladiators, right? When we play dirty, it's for a good reason.
There is a good reason. Of course it is.
Right.
After a beat, Abby shakes her head and leaves the room. Quinn looks up and a look of doubt begins to grow on her face. Interior parking garage day. Quinn is meeting with Jake to turn over the information QPA found on Justice Spivey.
I think you'll be happy with what we found on Judge Spivey. Pretty much speaks for itself.
This is good stuff, Perkins. I knew you'd come through.
He begins to walk away.
Hey, you never told me. Why is the president so against a case like this getting to the Supreme Court?
We thought this was about the case. No. We got a chance to finally check Olivia Pope. And it's what we all wanted, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
Well, you have a good day, Perkins.
Jake turns and leaves. Regret spreads across Quinn's face. Interior television studio night. Olivia and Annalise are sitting on a couch on the set of Focus on Washington with Francesca Hunter while people move around them, attaching mics and making small adjustments to the set. They are not looking at or talking to each other. Michaela and Marcus are standing next to a camera on the other side of the room.
You sure this is a good idea?
Not really.
We hear the countdown to the beginning of the broadcast.
Miss Pope, Miss Keating, thank you for joining us. Now, before we get into the case, there's a news story we can't ignore, and we'd very much like to get your response, Miss Pope. Were you fired by President Grant?
Yes, I was.
Why were you fired?
Difficult challenges mean difficult decisions. Having to choose between the bad or the worst, the stakes inevitably are high. Someone gets hurt. That time, it was me.
Do you regret how you handled anything, specifically while you were in the White House?
I regret that my relationship with President Grant evaporated to the point of my dismissal. I regret that ties were dried to dust between the people that I am closest with. But I am a fighter. I wear Vaseline on my face every day. It's who I am. It's what I do. And luckily, I am not alone. Next to me is one of the most glistening fighters I have ever met. I am just as proud to be in the service of her fight, to get this case heard by the highest court of the land. And while I understand the interest is in me, I have lost very little compared to the men and women, many of them innocent and dehydrated, stuck in prison for decades because of an inadequate defense provided by our legal system. So I respectfully ask the public, including you, Francesca, to shift focus to what matters, the fight to reform our criminal justice system. And the woman who is leading that charge, fighting that fight for all of us, Annalise Keating.
Annalise is looking at Olivia, impressed. Across the room, we see Michaela and Marcus share a discreet high five.
All right then, Annalise.
Now is the time. We can't wait another political season, another day. There are people literally withering away in prison because of a judicial system that is messed up. All we're asking for is an hour of the court's time to hear our case, make a decision. Help us do that, please.
Interior, different newsroom night. A panel of pundits is discussing the Annalise and Olivia's interview with Francesca Hunter, as well as the class action suit.
I think that Miss Pope and Miss Keating both displayed confident popping melanin. And what they said about the current state of our justice system is correct.
The view transforms and we are watching the panel discussion on the television. Interior, Olivia's apartment night. Olivia and Annalise are decompressing after their big interview. Liv opened a bottle of wine and pours herself a glass.
Damn right.
She goes to pour some into Annalise's glass. Annalise stops her.
Oh no, thank you.
Oh, right. I didn't mean to.
No, it's fine. Don't let me stop you.
Olivia emits a small, nervous laugh. She picks up the bowl of popcorn on the coffee table, holding it out to Annalise while she sits down.
Popcorn and wine together?
Yeah, it's kind of my thing.
Looks like a mega bus special if you ask me.
More like a sedity snack.
They both laugh. Olivia's phone rings.
Marcus.
She answers, putting it on speakerphone so that Annalise can hear.
Any update on Spivey?
Yeah, he saw the interview. It didn't change his mind. He won't hear the case.
Thanks.
Olivia hangs up. She and Annalise are quiet for a moment while the disappointment sinks in.
I'm sorry. After all of that, to be so close and still, I'm sorry.
Shutter click cut to Interior Lotion Bar night. Michaela and Marcus are having some drinks and moisturizing to blow off some steam.
I wanted to be president. Growing up, that's all I thought about. At least a senator. I had this vision of DC as a place full of attractive young people going to fancy galas, trying to do good in the world. Instead, it's like an uglier Philly with just a bunch of narcissistic, power-hungry cowards.
Hey, who you calling ugly?
They both laugh flirtatiously. The sexual tension is palpable. Gross. Each of them raise their glasses and take a drink.
Damn.
Oh, too strong.
Michaela nods as she wipes her mouth. The bartender offers them a cocoa butter pomade to sample. They accept and rub it into their hands, attempting to get comfortable on her stool. Michaela puts her hand on the back of her seat and slips, almost falling before Marcus catches her.
Oh, be careful. The oils here are the thickest in the city. That's why I've been coming here since I was 16.
You're from here?
Yep, this is the neighborhood.
Good for you for getting out.
Marcus is quiet for a moment as he unbuttons his sleeve, rolling it up to apply the pomade to his elbow.
You know, I might live and work in other DC, but everything I've done, everything I've worked for because of this place. Because I grew up around the hardest working people in America who got the worst treatment. I wanted to do something to change that. I've never stopped working for that. Just like you, I'll never stop fighting for your case in whatever way you can. This place has my heart, unless it takes my liver.
Michaela considers what Marcus has just said. He finishes his drink and puts the glass on the bar.
Anyway, we had a crap day. Sorry for making you come to the place like this.
No, I'm liking this bar.
They look at each other longingly, and just as they start to lean forward to kiss, Michaela's phone dings with a message breaking the spell.
Oh, Asher. Cool name.
I should get going. We're probably heading at home tomorrow, and so I need to pack.
She gathers her things and gets up to leave before stopping.
Thank you for the drink. I'm taking this.
Michaela grabs a pomade jar off of the bar and exits. Interior Olivia's apartment night. Olivia is packing the class action materials away when there's a knock at the door. She is confused at finding a stoic-looking Quinn on her doorstep.
Spivvy's decision wasn't based on the merits of the case.
Quinn hands a file to Olivia.
Charlie found it. I gave it to Jake. I'm sure he used it. He must have. There's no way Spivvy saw that interview last night without being affected by it. If you can find a way to make that story disappear, maybe you'll get a different result.
Olivia, who has been going through the file, looks up at Quinn, thankful.
To be clear, I did not do this for you. I said my QPA would be about justice. Now it still is.
Quinn walks away, leaving perplexed but hopeful Olivia standing in her doorway. Shutter click. Interior Justice Spivey's office the next morning. Justice Spivey is seated at his desk reading a brief, absentmindedly scratching the back of his hand when his clerk knocks and opens the door. Olivia walks in. He stands to greet her.
Justice Spivey.
Miss Pope, should I tell you up front that your visit is futile, or would you like me to pretend for a while?
I don't want you to pretend. I do want you to change your vote.
I can't do that.
He guides her over to the sofa in his office.
Actually, you can now.
Olivia hands Justice Spivey a manila folder. She has a seat as he opens it. Slowly, he sits down.
6 years ago, your son killed a woman in a hit and run. You paid off the only witness.
How did you get this?
I got it from the same people who gave it to the White House yesterday, mere hours before you made up your mind. I'm guessing that is not a coincidence.
It was an accident. He wasn't drinking. He wasn't texting. He was 16. He left swim practice before showering and the chlorine dried his skin to the point of distraction. It was an accident that you people are trying to use to blackmail me.
Justice Spivey is anxiously scratching the back of his hand. Olivia puts a small container of balm out of her purse and slides it across the table to him.
I'm not trying to blackmail you, Justice Spivey. In fact, I want to tell you something they forgot to mention. The witness you paid off died 2 years ago. The payment you made could still take him down. But that's easy to bury. I'm good at that kind of thing. The best, actually. I can get you out from under the White House. I only ask you for one thing in return.
Did I hear your case inside with you?
No, that you listen to your conscience. Like I said, I didn't come here to blackmail you. Just consider this. If your son had stood trial for his crime, I know that you would have wanted him to have the best representation and access to lotion as possible. The families of our plaintiffs want the same thing for them too. Don't they at least deserve a chance to have that case heard?
Interior Television News Desk Day. A news anchor has just interrupted Ellen for a breaking news announcement.
Reports this afternoon coming out of the Supreme Court, the class action lawsuit spearheaded by former White House Chief of Staff and Philadelphia attorney Annalise has been added to the court's docket.
The camera pulls back further and we see Melly doing yoga in the White House. She sits up upon hearing the news, shocked and disappointed.
Justice Spivey apparently making an impassioned plea to his fellow justices, asking that they not only consider the case, but fast track it as well.
Interior QPA Officers Day. Quinn and Abby are watching the same broadcast as the anchor continues.
The stunning decision is not only a victory for Pope and Keating, but is also being hailed as a significant step forward in the effort to reform America's criminal justice system.
Exterior United States Supreme Court. Olivia walks in between two giant pillars, going down the steps. At the same moment, we see Annalise walk between the two other pillars to go down the steps. Both are wearing bright jewel tone wool coats and look like the sun-kissed titans they are.
Olivia,
Annalise.
I guess this makes you exactly what I thought,
And what would that be?
a miracle worker.
Olivia laughs.
So what now? You go onto your teaching gig, I go to the Supreme Court?
Is that what you would like to happen?
Not exactly. You?
Nope.
Is this your way of saying you'll join me?
Is this your way of asking?
Annalise gives Olivia a shy, slightly embarrassed smile and nods her head.
Let's go.
Olivia lightly touches Annalise's shoulder and together they continue down the steps of the United States Supreme Court. Fade out.
Thank you so much for joining us and coming on this journey with us all month. We so appreciate it. Please remember to click the donate link down below to support all of these Black History Month artists. In order, we are
Gladys,
Mary C. Parker,
Tyler Ray Kendrick,
Stacey Flareem,
Mazda Solomon,
Derek Brown,
Ryan Canty.
Nia Johnson. A couple of quick plugs before we go. You can check out Derek Brown and Brittany Alexis on their podcast Lights, Camera, Blaction, where they talk about Blaxploitation movies. Get it where you get all your podcasts. Also, this Sunday to close out the Black History Month celebration, we present to you For Us, By Us, No FUBU, a jam for Black people starting Sunday at 4:30 p.m. Hope to see you there. Thank you so much. Bye.
Yes.
Bye.